Hello, Grand Strand. Welcome back to Talking About Food. This is Richard Florzak, private chef to the stars. As you know, it's the only food commentary show on the Grand Strand. We talk about food. That's the topic here. Doesn't matter who you are, what you do. The topic here is food. It will always be food. I've said before, we've had celebrities on. Whether celebrity or not, the topic is always food because nothing brings people together like great food. I learned that a long time ago. It's why I got into this business. I like making people happy through food. There's enough tragedy going on right now. And as you know, I never talk about politics on this show. Keep as far away from politics on this show as possible. So I like this whole principle of the Sabbath. You sit around with your family and your loved ones with no radio, no TV, no outside influences. It's a good principle. So I want to talk today about two things. One is traditional local cooking, and two, dumplings. Actually, it's probably three things. I also have commentary on two restaurants. One old and iconic that I hadn't heard about until recently and have been back twice. And the other one is a new restaurant, newer, up in Myrtle Beach. But the older restaurant I went to on a fact-finding mission, which is what I love most about doing this show. You know, when I first arrived in South Carolina, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I felt like I was burned out on the private chef business, certainly the restaurant business. And I started this show, and I absolutely adore doing this show. But recently, I have really felt the urge to get back behind the range again. And I put out some feelers, and I ended up with a job working for an absolute wonderful family. I know I've often said that Mel Gibson and his wife were the best bosses that I've ever had, and this new family is right up there. They're right up there. They're great people. I adore them already. That being said, they're from the South, and although I've been here for 4 years, I'm still learning local cuisine, and I want to make sure that I prepare their food to their liking. And frankly, that happened, wherever I worked, just because they may have been Hollywood stars, they still had, every one of them had, traditional recipes that they, had been raised on that they wanted me to prepare for them. So, I want to make sure that I prepare, this new family's food to their liking. So I set out, what I decided to do is I set out to ask all of my friends who are natives to this area about the preparation of their local dishes, how they prepare them. And now here lies the challenge because, and this happens in every region, in every culture that is preparing, we'll say, their home-cooked dishes. It's going to be different from not just region to region, but from household to household. What I've discovered is, with absolutely endless conversations with my local friends, is like so many other dishes, there truly is not a right or wrong to do something. I mean, I could delve into the history of just about every region in the country and why certain dishes are popular. But I mean, most people understand that it's what they had available to them. But it just blows my mind how people are so passionate about these types of dishes that often believe that their way is the only way. I mean, You go through the gamut: meatloaf, chicken soup, lasagna, you name it, cheesesteak sandwiches, pizza, pot roast, burgers, tomato sauce, some of the Latin dishes, arroz con pollo, which is rice and chicken. I mean, that's done, 100 different ways. And thinking about it for a second, the only type of food that comes to mind where there truly is, and I could be wrong about this, the only region that comes to mind is France, the French, that there are specific ways of doing things. The ingredients that are used, the prep work, the way things are cut, the way they're cooked, the way they're presented. Specific ways from start to finish. Now, I don't know another region where that can be said. And like I said, I could be wrong about it, but it's more just to make a point that anything other than that, any regional cooking, I don't believe that there's a right or wrong way to do it. It's how you were raised, how your mother cooked something, how your grandmother cooked something, how your grandfather cooked something, and what we became used to. And that was apparent recently. And this topic used to annoy me. I don't know why, looking back. Now it's just very amusing to me. It's even more than amusing. It's interesting to me as to why or why not certain people like traditional dishes done in a certain way. But anyway, I started to say that this topic came up recently at a restaurant that I dined at. My wife and I dined at with my dear aunt and my wonderful cousin and husband, which I'll talk about later on. But the same discussion came up, and it was so much fun for me. So back to my new position and being on this fact-finding mission of traditional South Carolinian cuisine. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, my dear friend Jack Gregory, and he turned me on to this restaurant in Georgetown. Now, typically I say, I do commentary on restaurants in the Grand Strand, and there's this ongoing argument as to whether Georgetown is in the Grand Strand. Some say yes, some say no. Anyway, whatever it is, it's called the Ball and Q. Now, the Ball and Q, if you've been there, you know all about it. But if you haven't been there, in my opinion, it's probably the best representative of sit-down Southern cuisine. And I think maybe my buddy was thinking that this was going to be beneath me. Maybe not. Now, he knows me well enough to know that I would never, ever, ever react that way. I love this place so much that I begged my wife. She had worked a long day, so I begged her, please, can we go tonight? I want to go back there. I want to have this dish called squash casserole. Now, if some of you locals are listening, you're probably laughing right now. But that dish is what I think probably the closest thing to what people, when they talk about crack cocaine, because I was so craving that delightful little side dish that I couldn't wait to go back. And we did. And unfortunately, that evening, they didn't have squash casserole on the menu. So, however, it was delicious. You know what? I'm going to talk about that later in the show. Just wanted to explain why I was there, how much I loved it. I learned a lot more about local Southern cuisine and learned a lot from my dear friends, although I don't think one recipe was the same as the next from friend to friend. Anyway, so I got more to talk about. I want to talk about dumplings and a little bit about the background of that and how it ties into this whole sort of theory I have about regional traditional cooking. So hang around. When we come back, I'm going to talk about dumplings and then we'll get into the commentary of the restaurants. Hang around. We'll be right back. Yeah, so I mentioned working for this new lovely family. They're just terrific, and I want to make sure that I prepare the foods to their liking. So I reached out to my dear friend Jack Gregory. He suggested Ball and Q because I was telling him that I just want to know more about local Southern fare. And like I said earlier, it was terrific. And they are at 1808 High Market Street in Georgetown. Man, what a place. What a place. If you haven't been there before, sort of nondescript. You don't really notice it, or I didn't, from the road until my buddy pulled into the parking lot at lunchtime on a Wednesday, and we had to wait for a seat. I mean, that's like unheard. And plus, the restaurant must seat, my guess, maybe 150 people, and they were packed on a Wednesday. That has to tell you something. And I just fell in love with this place. It's, is it 5-star? Of course not. But it is great value for the money. And I just loved the whole local feel to it. It's not overly decorated inside. From what I understand, it used to be a pool hall. They used to have a pool table in the back, and then over the years they got busier, started serving food, and got more popular and expanded, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm glad it did, and I'm glad it's still popular. But for those people who have been there, I mean, this will fall on deaf ears because they've been there before. But for people who haven't been there, who live here now, you gotta try this place. It is, from what I understand, and my buddy has lived here for a long time, and he says this is the real deal. And I'll tell you, I had a blast there. On Wednesday, I had, I think it was Wednesday, because maybe it was Tuesday, because they have lunch specials every day. Like on Monday, they have fried chicken, country style steak, or pot roast for $11.95. It's unbelievable. Tuesday, yeah, I must have been there on Tuesday because their specials for that day are fried chicken, ham, or fried pork chop, and that's what I had. And I didn't know what to expect. You could do pork chops 100 different ways, but it was this slightly thin pork chop that was battered and deep fried. And I had a side of coleslaw and this thing called squash casserole, which is going to be my new favorite side dish of all time. And the funniest thing happened, like I said, it was so crowded in there, and the waitresses and waiters, they were just flying back and forth, although they could not have been more gracious to us. And I was trying, a couple times plates would go by and I would see what looked like a side dish on a separate plate, but it had a reddish tint to it, and it was square, like, imagine like a slice of lasagna. And it had gone by me a couple of times, and as I was ordering, I was trying to point out to the waitress, but I couldn't see it on anybody else's plate. I said, it's kind of like a reddish, it's like a side. And she goes, oh, you must be thinking about squash casserole. I said, well, okay, let's try it. Well, it came on the plate with the pork chop and the coleslaw, and it wasn't anything. Well, I found out later on that it's a strawberry cake, which happens to be one of my favorite. Anyway, so I dive into this squash casserole, and immediately I'm in heaven. I First of all, I finished the pork chop. Coleslaw was fantastic. You could tell it was, house made. And I'm full, but I'm thinking to myself, should I embarrass myself and order now a separate side of squash casserole, not to take home, but to devour there? That's how good it was. And the irony is, when I went back with my wife, I think it was on that Friday, we made sure we got there a little bit earlier, because if you have like a 20-minute wait on a Wednesday at lunchtime, chances are you're going to be waiting on Friday night. But we got there early enough where we didn't have to. We sat down, and they don't serve squash casserole on Friday. I was going through withdrawals, but I ended up having a hamburger steak with rice and a salad, and the hamburger steak and rice were covered in this thick brown oniony gravy that was to die for. My God, I love this kind of cooking. It is a terrific place, and like I said, I may be late to the party on this one. But if you haven't been there, venture down. I mean, this place is as home style as you can possibly get. If you're looking for cloth napkins or fine china, go somewhere else, because you ain't going to find it there. I mean, the plates that they use are like those old plastic plates that they institutional type that they would serve. You can remember getting in high school or whatever. I could care less about that. It is one of my favorites. I can't wait to go back to try all of the different sides. They had the red rice there that I just learned about. It's another one of those things I asked my friends about. I probably asked 5 friends, and they gave me 5 different ways to do it. But I'm trying to learn this as best and as fast as I can, so that I can make the people that I work for now as happy as possible. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all different nights that have specials. Same with lunch specials that they'll have each day. There's a pot roast country style steak or fried chicken on Monday. It's like $11.95, and I can't wait to go back and try this strawberry cake. So anyway, they are the Ball and Q restaurant, 1808 on High Market Street in Georgetown. And I mean, I could talk about this place for our fried flounder, fresh fried flounder on Fridays for $11.95, barbecued pork, grilled chicken breast with mushroom, onion. Oh my God. Red rice, field peas, okra, mac and cheese was good. Man, I'm getting hungry already. I can't wait to go back. Anyway, like I said, I could talk about this place for an hour. And listen, when we come back, I'm going to be talking about dumplings, all the different types of dumplings that there are, and how it fits into my commentary about how traditional fare in different regions of the world, but especially in this country, and how we came to like each specific fare and why. Hang on, we'll be back in a second. Dumplings. Every nationality has them. The Italians have ravioli and tortellini. Japanese have gyoza. Chinese have a variety of dumplings. They're fried, boiled, steamed. India has samosas. Mexico has tamales, and on and on and on. Seems like every country in the world has their version of dumplings. And I am of Polish heritage, so I am very familiar with pierogi, yet another type of dumpling. Well, I was raised, my grandmother was known in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania for being like the pierogi queen. She was famous for it. As a matter of fact, I just found out recently, my aunt told me this, that my grandfather would work in the coal mines all day and then come home and hand deliver the pierogi that my grandmother had been cooking all day. And that's just fascinating to me. But after my dear grandmother passed, went a long time without having the ones that she used to make. And then one day I see in my email box, my dear aunt had sent me my grandmother's recipe. And it was fascinating to me. Studied in culinary institutes, been studying all over the world. And I think that fascinated me more than anything. But like any other home-cooked item, every family thinks that they have the best recipe. And I still love hers, and I always will. But a very interesting thing happened this past week. My aunt was in town, and we decided to go, my aunt and my cousin and her husband, to a new place in Myrtle Beach called the Pierogi House. And like I was saying earlier in the show, everybody thinks that their recipe is the best. And, there are debates over these types of things all the time around the table, So I knew that discussion was going to come up because I knew they weren't not going to make them like my grandmother used to. And once again, like I said earlier in the show, that kind of used to bother me. Now I find it very amusing and very fun to be able to sort of dive down deep and to do this critique as to how close, if at all, they were to my grandmother's pierogi. Well, to back up for a second, my wife and I, we took a trip last year to Krakow, Poland. Went to Auschwitz, and we toured all over Krakow. It's become one of my favorite cities in the world. It is the most inviting city as an American that I've ever been to outside of the United States. And we had an absolute wonderful time. But my wife had pointed out to me during the trip that they had a pierogi making class in Krakow. And I immediately signed up for it. And it was so cool. We met the instructor and 7 others in front of this big statue in this square in Krakow. The instructor took us on a bus ride to a farmer's market where she bought a specific cheese that she used to make pierogi. And she did that every single day. And she only got it from this one provider. And then we headed to her little apartment that overlooked the little town square of Krakow. And we proceeded to be taught how to make what she considered the most authentic pierogi that she was aware of. It was so fascinating to me. Now, it's a simple dish. It's flour, water, eggs. But it's amazing how many different renditions you can have of that. And these were slightly different than what I was accustomed to growing up. But they were absolutely wonderful. And I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. So fast forward back to the United States and back to the Pierogi House where I met my family. We had such a great time. The Pierogi House. It is located at 1390 Faro Parkway, Myrtle Beach, Unit 1. It's owned and operated by a gentleman, nice guy. His name is Peter Watira. He is, ironically, he is also from Krakow, Poland, and has been here for quite a while and has an absolutely wonderful restaurant. Are these pierogi like my grandmother's? Not really, but I love them. And we had such an absolute terrific time talking about how they're made, how we felt about them, how we felt about the filling. It was just a wonderful night. They also have on the menu another traditional. It's a small menu, but it's a good menu, and it's very traditional. They have stuffed cabbage, which were not anything like I used to have at home, but they were delicious. They were very, very well done. They've got a heritage platter, which gives you, it's like a pierogi flight with some other things on there. They have Polish sausage, which is kielbasi. They have hunter stew on that. They have a stuffed cabbage on that as well. So it's like a sampler platter. Bigos, which is a hunter's stew, they call it. Just blend of meats and sausage, mushrooms, and sauerkraut. It's just a cool place. It's also a small little market, so you can get a lot of Polish items there. I noticed that behind the counter, it's an open kitchen, so you can see what's going on. Like I said, wonderful people. Our server was just the sweetest young gal from Poland. She used to be a lifeguard. She came here as a lifeguard. Now she works at the Polish restaurant. I just love this kind of stuff. But I noticed behind the counter where the kitchen is set up, they had these pallets of flour, Polish flour. And when I looked closely at them, they were the brand of the flour was what I used taking the pierogi making classes in Krakow. So they're doing everything by the book there. They used to have stuffed peppers. There's an array of different fillings for pierogi, some traditional, some not so traditional. And they're all served on this beautiful wooden cutting board, which is a real nice touch. They've got a wine list. They serve beer and wine. They've got a wine list, and they've got an extensive beer list with a lot of Polish beers on there. Like I said, Peter, the chef owner, I'm going to get him on the show. I talked to him about it already because I love to hear immigrant stories, success stories like this. Like I said, he has another career as well, but he does a great job. They're fairly new. I think they're about a year into their business, but it is, if you're not Polish, it is 100% worth a trip. If you are Polish, you can have the same debates as to whether your mother or grandmother made them the same way, but it's certainly not to be missed. This is a good place. I really like it. They are located at 1390 Faro Parkway in Myrtle Beach, Unit 1. Give it a try, folks. It's well worth it. It's a cute little place. There's outside seating if you like. But like I said, it shouldn't be missed. It's a good, even if you're not Polish, it's a cool place. So anyway, there you have it for episode 40. Hope you enjoyed. You've got 2 restaurants to try out. Ball and Q in Georgetown. I'm sure half of you have already been there, but go back. I don't have to tell you that. It's that good. And of course, the Pierogi House. Even if you know how to make pierogi, I know how to make pierogi, but it's worth a trip. And I'm sure a lot of you at home do as well, because you are your family's private chef. Thanks so much for listening, folks. Appreciate it.